Welcome back students to our online teaching and learning at Shet Vidya Mandir English High School and Junior College. Students, hope you all are fine. In our today's video, we shall see the remaining part of the lesson, The Happy Prince, Standard 8, Lesson 2.5. We had already seen the few characters of the story, that is the Happy Prince, the Swallow, the women, the young writer, the little girl and the angels. We also saw the first part how the happy prince started helping the poor and the needy by sacrificing all the precious jewels and gold. By sacrificing the jewels from his both eyes, the prince could no longer see. That is what we did in the earlier part. Now moving ahead with the next part, what happened next is the little swallow could not perform such work anymore as the happy prince had turned absolutely blind. Now the happy prince had absolutely turned blind, but the prince insisted him to continue the job of telling him all the strange things happening and the sufferings of men and women. But the prince kept on telling him, insisting him, forcing him to keep telling what is happening among the men and women in his city. He saw the poor people sitting at the gate, saw the faces of hungry children with sad eyes. Two little boys were lying close together and were also hungry. So these are the things what he saw, and he came to share it with the happy prince. As you know, in India we even have poverty levels, and we get to see all these things which are being seen by the swallow and informed to happy prince. Then the prince told the little swallow, please help the hungry and the poor people. He said, I am secured with fine gold. You should take it off piece by piece and offer it to the needy people. Now the statue of prince was entirely filled with gold. So swallow, he gave idea to the swallow saying, take out every part of gold whatever I have in my body and give it to the needy. So the gold has been to be a precious metal and they can sell and eat some food for that timing. The little swallow removed the gold until the prince looked very dull and grey. The entire gold from the happy prince's body was taken and the entire statue looked dull and the color seemed to be of a lead, which is grey and very dull. So that's how happy prince helped these poor people apart from those whom he helped in the characters we saw. So every part of gold was taken out and now the statue looked very dull. What happened then? Now the weather became colder. Time passed by and the swallow realized he was going to die. Swallow wanted to go to Egypt because the weather where they stayed was getting too colder, and in the colder weather the swallows cannot survive. So the weather was getting too colder, but the swallow did not want to leave the happy prince and return because he was very much attached to the happy prince. Swallow realized he was going to die. Swallow said goodbye to the happy prince and died at his feet. Now he could not bear the cold and he could not share his problem to happy prince because happy prince was already suffering with the miseries of the people in his city. So he could not say that. He just said goodbye and he died at the feet of happy prince. The entire long statue on the feet, he gave his last breath. Also the greedy mayor of the town thought that the statue of the happy prince is no longer beautiful without the jewels, and orders for the prince statue to be melted down. Now later the mayor of the area, the mayors and the council of the mayors all happened to see the statue and they said it's no longer beautiful and bring it down and melt it down. They were least bothered to know what happened, why is that so, why did we see the change. And they even saw the swallow which was lying on the foot of the statue and they had asked for the swallow to be taken away. They had brought him. God sent his blessed messenger to acquire the two most valuable things in the city. Now God had commanded his servants, his messengers, to go to the city and pick out two things which are more precious or most precious to him. Now they went to the city and they brought him the broken heart of whose? The happy prince, because his entire body was melted. Only the heart which was having a life was left. And the dead bird was all the way carried and brought to heaven as a gift. God was happy to see them in heaven. Now the little swallow will sing forever in his garden. In the heaven garden the swallow will sing because swallows are known to be a good singer. And the happy prince will stand in his city of gold. Now the happy prince can proudly stand in the city of gold and can love the people the way he used to love on the where he was being a statue. Now let's take a quick glance as to what we did so far. We talk about exposition. Exposition is the main purpose. There was a prince, he had everything in his life. He had not seen any sorrows. The prince was determined to help people in any way he could. That was the first thing what we saw in the story. Secondly, we saw some complications, or you can say rising action. There was so much of misery, but the prince couldn't do anything because he was dead and now he lived in a statue. There was also a swallow that became his messenger to help people. It was the good deeds they were doing together. What happened then in the climax? After all the jewels were taken out from the statue, now that the statue looked ugly, people thought that the statue is no longer beautiful. The swallow died because of the weather, and the statue of the happy princess melted down by the mayor and the councillors' people. The happy prince's lead heart was thrown away by them. God asked the angels to find them and get those two precious things to the heaven. And lastly, what is the resolution we see from this? That's a decision. Final decision was what? The angel brought back the dead swallow and the lead heart of the happy prince. God was happy and said that the swallow now can sing in paradise garden forever, and the happy prince shall be praised forever in the city of gold. So we get to know that these two people who lived, these two living creatures who lived on the earth, did very much good thing, and they got to be again in the heaven together. Which character had a drastic change? What character we saw a change? There's a character development we seen in the swallow. The swallow in the beginning was saying he wants to go back to Egypt. Whenever the happy prince is to ask to go and help, he used to tell, I want to go back to Egypt because my friends are waiting. He just kept on saying that. But later, as he saw the sorrows, the cry, the tears of happy prince, he changed his mindset. So he started to change and thank the prince. And at the beginning, he listened to the prince because he was curious, after which he stayed with him because he felt sorry for him. He was curious to know and get the things done. But after which he stayed with him because he felt sorry for him. He used to feel the pain. The swallow used to feel the pain of the happy prince, where he was crying and he was helpless to help the people. After every good deed, the swallow felt better. From a superficial bird, he became the happy prince partner in doing good for people. So at last we come to know he became a good partner, a good friend, or a good messenger for doing good things for the people. So that is what we know about the swallow's change of mindset. So students, what's the main theme the writer or the author Oscar Wilde wants to share with us? Firstly, he wants to share us the quality of love, the compassion of the statue for other people, and the swallow bird depicts great sensitive feelings. The prince gives away everything to help people, and the swallow and prince share a true bond. They become truly a good friends, and they share their love for each other by helping each other. Sacrifice. Second thing we learn is sacrifice. While the prince gives away his ruby, jewels, and gold pieces, the little swallow sacrifices his life to serve humanity. No doubt when he was alive on the earth, he could not see all these bad things what was happening, but later he did his best. The bird did not reach Egypt to meet its companions, instead stayed with the prince in harsh cold weather, and at last died at the feet of the statue. The swallow also sacrifices life and died at the feet of the statue. Appearances can be deceptive. That also we learn. That is, the story has a great lesson to teach, as it portrays a statue coated in gold, but basically it is made up of lead. The appearance was grand, but when all good coating came off, the statue looked ugly. Another thing associated with it is the happy prince. The prince was happy when he was alive and enjoyed his wealth, but the time he saw human beings suffering, he was saddened by the poverty and pain around him. But as soon as he saw the things happening, he became sad and had a lot of pain to bear looking at the people's suffering. Even ahead, what do we see? We saw exploitation and hypocrisy of the ruling class of society. Hypocrisy is insincerity. Exploitation is the world of the society is completely exploited, and the hypocrisy, we have hypocrite people who are insincere of the ruling class of the society. That we saw is true. This theme is vibrant in the story as the mayor and his members judged the statue and chose to pull it down as they thought it looked ugly. That was the feeling these mayors had. They just had a feeling of the looks. They wanted to just have a look and said no other harsh feelings they had for the happy prince who died. Also, the happy prince lived in his palace not knowing the misery of human beings, as he never bothered to look beyond the huge walls of his palace. Also, when the happy prince was alive, he also did a mistake by not knowing what the outside world was. He didn't know the sorrows of the people. That is very important when you are a prince of a palace or a king of a palace. It's very important you to know the hardships of the people who are miserable and poor. The rich lived lavishly and the poor are not treated well. That is always a saying that the rich always lived happily and the poor were always treated unwellly. And lastly, is it true friendship that we learn? Friendship should be true. That we see from the story is the prince in the story shares a great bond of friendship and respects with the little and respect with the little swallow. Whatever the prince commands, the swallow follows the orders religiously. The friendship they had was so true and loyal that they were put in heaven together. They both stayed in heaven together because their bond was so true and so pure. The friendship and the love they shared was very true, and that's why they were taken to heaven together. And in heaven also they met together and lived happily. So finally, what moral values we get from the story, or what Oscar Wilde wants to share the values to us? Outward beauty is nothing. It is just a show. The real beauties are love and sacrifices. Outward beauty is just to have a look on it. The real beauty is in within you. That is the love what you share to others and the sacrifice what you do for your loved ones. Secondly, love and sacrifice are two saving forces. To save things in the world or to do things much better, it is only that you show your love and sacrifice for people. They are the most powerful weapons in this world. There is a great gap between the rich and the poor, the rulers and the masses. There's a great gap between the rich and the poor, and the ruling party and the masses who have been following it, and which we cannot come up or overtake or understand the gap between the two, and that is why there is a lot of suffering. God loves those who love their fellow human beings. Secondly, we also learn that God loves those who love their fellow beings. That is true. When we are loving our fellow beings, we automatically love God, or we share a bond with God also. The worst aspects of modern city can be overcome by love and charity, which have the unique ability. As we spoke earlier points also, love is the important point which we need to remember. When we have love for the people who are in pain and suffering, automatically we'll sacrifice and give charity, which is the only way of doing something unique or something special to God. Lastly, insecurities, betrayal, and selfishness are the things that will never make you a happy person. Insecurities, not thinking about others, you feel insecure about others, even betrayal, cheating anyone, and selfishness are the things that will not make you, never make you a happy person, that will always keep you sad person in this world. Lastly, one Oscar Wilde has given one last quote, beautifully he has quoted, where he says, selfishness is not living as one wishes to live, it is asking others to live as one wishes to live. Which means that it shouldn't be that you make others live according to you, it is like you give them to live their lives as they wish to. That is the real meaning of selfishness. It is not that what you want should happen every time, it is that you let others live according to their life, and that is the true meaning of this proverb or this saying. Moving to the assessment part. Firstly, we'll say whether these sentences are true or false, and correct the false ones. You read the sentences, go through the story and find out the correct answer and rewrite the statement. Secondly, find from the story homophones of the following words. Words that sound the same but different in spellings and meanings. Weak, W-E-A-K, weak. Homophones, we have a similar sound but different spelling and different meaning. So we have one more word is week, days of the week, W-E-E-K. Blue, and the color blue, B-L-U-E, and so on. If you find it difficult in finding out, you may refer to a dictionary and get it done. Here's an assignment. If you could change the end of the story, that is, after the swallow refused to fly to Egypt, how would you change it? Summarize your idea in 10 to 12 lines. That one part you will be doing. If in case the swallow refused to fly to Egypt, how would you change it? That you'll summarize it. And also think of one of your favorite stories. Which storybook you like the best? Fill in the facts about the story has given. Only the points which are highlighted over here, you have to fill it. If you find difficult in the entire book to summarize it, you can just go on the Google, get your story on the Google and take the help of the pointers and fill this answers what questions what are being asked you to fill. I hope you had a good time and learned a very good moral from the story. Thank you.